Hi everyone, just wanted to let you know that here at the Mini Cube Studio, summer has officially arrived. It is very hot here and we are looking at doing some air conditioning work, so you're going to be hearing a little noise in the background for our videos. Do apologize for that. Anyway, today we're going to be looking at mounting our solar panels onto the side plates for our 3U CubeSat. So what we've done is we've created, using some older pieces, a template or guide so that we can take our new solar panel frame, we're going to slide this into place, and then we're going to epoxy our solar cell directly onto this board. I'm going to show you a little bit of how we do that process and just walk you through what we've been doing. So when we got started, we created these templates. You can see that this is the epoxy template we're going to use, and this is a positioning template. Okay, and if you look at our plate here, you can see there's the epoxy outline, the smaller one, and then where the solar cell is going to sit. Now, the 4 holes here are where the solar cell connections are going to be made on the back side. Because these have to be soldered in a certain way, we decided to just do a through hole instead of doing a VIO, which is a normal technique you would use in electronics. This is a little easier overall for the spacecraft. Design made for an interesting challenge, but anyway, we're going to mount the solar panel and we're going to do a couple of different techniques to make certain that it works. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is measure out a nice little bit of epoxy. We'll get all of our pieces here lined up. And one of the things I highly recommend that you get in your studio are these little things. These are lab containers. They're disposable. They're absolutely wonderful for working with things like epoxies or glues of any kind. They're just great, and they're cheap. They're like $6 for 100 of them. They're just great to have around. I do recommend having these in different sizes. This is a medium. They make them smaller and they make them larger. Get a few on hand so that you can be ready to do whatever it is you need to do. Okay? Another thing you'll see me using a lot around the studio is a little pocket scale. These are wonderful for taking measurements. You can zero it after you put your little container on it, and it just helps you keep your proportions of your materials correct, especially when dealing with different materials like epoxies and things where they have to be measured like 1-to-1 or 2-to-3 or whatever the particular methodology is that you have to use for that material. These are great. You can weigh as you go along, get your proportions right, mix everything up, and you're good to go. All right? Okay, so for this first test, we're going to do an equal amount of epoxy, so a 50-50 mix. And we're going to start with part A, and we're just going to drop in a couple of grams of that. Okay, that's about the same amount. We'll take a break. We're going to put our gloves on, okay? I know these are hard to come by nowadays, but when you're working with epoxies, unless you want to glue yourself to your work, have a pair on hand. Okay, so now we grab our stirring stick. We take this off the scale now, put the scale away. We're just going to blend this up until it's an even color. You can see that it's not very even yet. It takes a little bit of time. Just be sure to stir it around. Very good. Okay, so we've got a pretty even color there. We've made way more than we need for this particular job, but we're just doing an experiment to see if this is going to work. Okay, so now we're going to take our jig. We're going to put our panel into the jig. Okay, should be a tight fit. Then we take our template. See, our template fits real nice right there. Okay. Now we're going to take our epoxy. We're just going to lay this out right here in the middle. Okay. I'm just going to smear that around a little bit. Now for the next step, what we're going to do is we're just going to take a bit of cardstock here. I'm going to fold it over to make a nice sharp edge. And then I'm going to use this to squeegee our epoxy into place. And what I'm doing is I'm filling in the holes here so we get a nice even coat all the way across. Right like that. Okay. Now we lift off our template. You can see we have a nice even layer of epoxy there. Real simple, it's pretty close to the lines, not too much oozing. That's a good thing, okay? So, now we're going to take our solar cell and we're going to roughly line it up with where it needs to be. Right like that. And then we're going to use our guide. That's what our guide is for. We're going to slip this in over the top of that solar panel, or solar cell rather. Okay, there we go. Okay, now the solar panel's in. What we can do is set our next one on top. There we go. And we're going to repeat the process. Okay. Now for this top one, we want to try a different technique. Because we have different ways of going about this, we want to see which technique is going to work best for us out in the real world. So the first one has a complete template. This one we're just going to align. We're going to put a cover plate over the top of it, which doesn't help with the alignment at all. Then we're just going to put a weight on this, and we're going to let it sit for a couple days. Then we'll come back and we'll check what the results are of this experiment. Okay, so this one we're just going to set in place like this, kind of eyeball it, press it down. Follow our white lines. There we go. Okay, now we're going to put our protective piece on top, and then we're going to add one of these. This is a 1x3 steel block. These are wonderful little blocks to have on hand. I know that, well, 1x2x3 is what they're actually called, and these are a nice heavy little weight. They're great for making right angles, for bolting things together, for building jigs. I know Adam Savage from Mythbusters is a fan of these, and they're worth their weight, trust me. So we're going to set that on top. Actually going to add a second one, just to make certain those are weighed down. And there we have it. Now, we've got all of this extra material here that's just laying. These are designed to protect the surface area. We can just leave them alone, put them aside, definitely throw this in the trash, and you're all set to go. Okay, we'll check back in on this experiment in a couple of days and see how these solar panels came out.